about what becomes achievable when we invest not only in technology, but in people, communities, ecosystems. Thank you all for being here and for believing, as we do at data.org, that data and AI, placed in the hands of purpose-driven data and AI practitioners, the people, can change lives at scale. Data.org is accelerating the power of data and AI to solve some of our greatest challenges. We think globally and work locally to accelerate this power to solve some of these challenges. At data.org, we see our role in three ways. We convene, we bring together governments, civil society, academia, industry, non-profits, because no single organization or sector can solve these problems alone. We connect through the Capacity Accelerator network of networks that you'll hear a lot about today. There are trainings, fellowships, digital learning, experiential learning programs, community engagement, hackathons, case studies, several tools that we are developing with partners that then create the workforce that we are going to talk about today. And we catalyze, we accelerate impact, so solutions don't stay local, small, or siloed, but instead scale to improve millions of lives across the globe. Today, the work spans 5 global hubs across the United States, Africa, Latin America, India, and the Asia Pacific, each uniquely rooted in its region with specific needs that are very local, yet united in a shared mission and learnings to build data and AI workforce across financial inclusion, climate, low-resource languages, and health, while deepening the intersection of these domains where real transformation happens. We have now trained and engaged over 150,000 people and worked with over 9,000 organizations. Alongside 100+ partners, we have developed several digital learning offerings, run hackathons, innovation challenges, and secured 10 government partnerships to scale skilling and impact. Together, we are marching towards our goal of 1 million purpose-driven data and AI practitioners by 2032. But our work is far more than just about numbers. It is about an African CAN fellow from Ghana gaining economic security for his community by unlocking datasets through connection to partners in India. An academician at a small university in Haryana or Odisha reusing experiential learning approaches from CAN that were in fact developed in another part of the world into their classroom for benefits to reach Tier 2 and Tier 3 universities that would have otherwise not had access to such curriculum. CAN learners and fellows reimagining a just transition through bottom-up approaches for low-income urban settlements in Odisha. From our keynote speaker and expert panelists, you will hear stories of partnership, learning, experimentation, and scale. You will see what becomes possible when capacity meets community. And most importantly, you will see what partnerships makes possible. So without further ado, I'll bring on our keynote speaker today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for believing and supporting a future where an AI-ready workforce can unleash impact at scale to serve humanity. Let me introduce our keynote speaker, a very special guest, Dr. Owe Stewart, Vice President, Inclusive Innovation and Analytics at MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth, to deliver this keynote on investing in data and AI capacity building for social impact, exploring how philanthropy can strategically build a future-ready workforce. Dr. Stewart.
Thank you, Priyank. It's good to be among friends. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be with all my friends and so many of you who are leaders in the space, who are committed to advancing social and economic impact through data and AI. Today, frontline organizations around the world are tackling increasingly complex crises, from pandemics to displacement to climate shock. Their courage is extraordinary, but too often they lack the data and AI capabilities that are needed to act with the speed, precision, and scale that this moment requires. Think about this. We would never send firefighters into a burning building without equipment. So, we cannot send social impact organizations into addressing societal challenges without the data and AI capabilities that define this modern era, the era of AI. And this is where all of us in the room, funders, educators, practitioners, public and private leaders, we all have a responsibility to act, because the future of inclusive growth depends on building a purpose-driven data and AI workforce that is equipped, empowered, and anchored on impact. At the Mastercard Center for Inclusive Growth, we believe that philanthropy must invest in enabling infrastructure that includes people, platforms, and partnerships. These will let organizations unlock the power of data for good. That is why 5 years ago, along with the Rockefeller Foundation, we helped create data.org. As you all know, a platform for partnerships to democratize data science and embed it in the operations of organizations that are serving millions around the world. Through the Capacity Acceleration Network, now spanning over 100 partners, we've seen what strategic investment can do. Let me reel it off. You heard from Priyank. 5 accelerators across 4 continents. 150 people trained, 50,000 people trained and more. 9 digital learning courses. 10 government partnerships that are fueling scale for impact around the world. These numbers matter. But I tell you, it's the stories behind them that matter even more. Yesterday, we had the privilege of hearing some amazing stories that's happening within the CAN network. Permit me to just share a few of mine because I'm a data scientist. During the COVID period in Togo, which is a country in West Africa, Data.org partnered with Give Directly to support the government in using machine learning to target emergency cash assistance, reaching the country's lowest income residents faster and more accurately than ever. I think the number is about 137,000 people were reached. Think about impact. In India, a simple analytic model helped farmers reduce food waste by predicting shelf life. That work became critical when global grain shortages hit. Across these very 2 simple examples, one truth is clear. Investing in data and AI capacity saves time, saves resources, and in my 2 examples, actually save lives. Think about that. But smart capacity building requires more than funding training programs. As a funder, and to funders in the room, we must ask, where is the greatest leverage? Where is the sector ready to absorb talent? And how can we ensure investments that lead to impact, not frustration? If you look all around you, around the world right now, the need is massive. The social sector alone will require 3.5 million additional data scientists in the next decade, in this decade of AI. Data.org, with the support from Mastercard Center for Inclusive Growth, is committed to help train 1 million purpose-driven data practitioners with 2 things in mind: diversity and localism. But funders cannot only focus on the supply side because, hear me now, talent without opportunity becomes a waste, and opportunity without talent becomes stagnation. Training practitioners is only half the equation. If organizations lack systems, culture, governance, and leadership commitment, these newly trained data scientists will have nowhere to apply their skills. This is where funders are uniquely positioned to act, bridging the gap between supply and demand by supporting, and I'm just listing a few here, organizational data maturity, leadership readiness, responsible data governance, and the forgotten equation in all of this, infrastructure. We must build not just the workers, but the workplace that enables impact. The question we must constantly ask is, how do we ensure that capacity building leads to real-world impact? Well, The Capacity Acceleration Network gives us early and clear evidence. Again, I'm just going to list a few. Social enterprises using new data skills to improve climate adaptation. Wink, wink, Priyank. Health organizations deploying analytics to expand care. Cities strengthening financial inclusion through stronger data systems. These aren't isolated outcomes. They are proof points that strategic investments work. And they show us that when both sides of the equation, namely talent supply and organizational demand, are supported, we unlock lasting, scalable, systemic changes. So here's the opportunity before us. We can build a world where every organization fights poverty, protects public health, strengthens communities, or builds climate resilience, and they would have access to the same kind of data that we see in the private sector, which are well-funded, now being available in the social sector. We can build a workforce of 1 million purpose-driven data and AI practitioners that are not just skilled, but empowered to drive impact on the issues that matter most. Again, wink, wink, localism. Let me bring this keynote to a close. And I'd like to close with a famous African proverb that's often attributed to Chinua Achebe, and it says, "Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter." Let me repeat that. Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter. What this proverb emphasizes is that history is written by the victors or dominant groups. It highlights that without a voice, the perspective of the marginalized, the defeated, or silenced will always be omitted, making stories one-sided. What kind of world is that? So we can build an inclusive ecosystem that ensures that practitioners thrive, contribute, and transform our collective capacity for good. But only if we choose as funders, as educators, as innovators, to invest boldly, intentionally, and together. The future of inclusive economic growth will not be shaped by algorithms alone. Who wants that? But by the people who design them, question them, and use them to build a more inclusive, resilient, and prosperous world. Let's unleash that impact. Let's build that workforce. But more importantly, let's build it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. We'll now move on to the main panel discussion here, and I'll invite my colleague, Perry Hewitt, our Chief Strategy Officer, to take us forward.
Thank you. UI remains the toughest act to follow in this entire conference, so thank you so much for your forbearance. He's really remarkable. I will, in the spirit of collaboration, quibble with one of the things he said, which is that we're sending firefighters into a burning building, ill-equipped. What I worry is we've given the firefighters all the equipment and none of the training. With the tools that are available to us today to do solutions that are good and bad, it's really scary to think what is possible unless we center these efforts around people first, thinking in terms of data and AI. And that's why we're working to build 1 million purpose-driven data practitioners. But without further ado, let me get on to the panel. I have a series of questions, and I'd love for you to interrupt each other and introduce a little of that Delhi traffic chaos into this conversation. So Tav, I'll start with you. Universities are clearly the pipeline for purpose-driven data and AI workforce. How did IIIT Delhi design training for the Capacity Accelerator Network to produce practitioners who are not just technically skilled, and we talk about the risks of people who are just technically skilled, but ready to drive real-world impact in the social sector? What kind of training do you have to give them to get these sort of well-rounded, purpose-driven data practitioners? Thank you.
Thank you, Perry, and thank you, Data.org and CAN Partners, for this fantastic conversation. We are a technical university, very much grounded in computer science as a core discipline, but also with interdisciplinary departments. So I work in the Department of Computational Biology. We have a Center for Social Sciences and Humanity, Department of Computational Social Sciences and Humanities. So I think when we were designing this program, we were very much aware, and while as a technical university, when you go to your senates and the boards, they're very much technical focused, right? So how does it compare with the other technical education programs across the country and the world? And we are only about 17 years old now, and within a very short span of time, within the first 10 in the computer science across the country. But then we were very much also emphasizing the need for bringing technical education together with the user's point of view at the end of the day. And I come from healthcare. I work in AI for healthcare. So that was my lens of looking at things, and my colleagues' lenses were coming from social sciences, humanities, climate, agriculture. So we had all these very nice set of colleagues from various departments who came together and actually provided inputs and also taught the course. But I think what I would like to emphasize is that is not enough. What we still do think is that the heart of this was collaborations. This was not about triple ITD alone. As coming from healthcare, we have been working with hospitals, public health agencies for more than 15 years now, and they remained a key partner in all of this design of the program and also the conversations that went into it. Similarly, going forward, as we look into it, look into how do we actually create impact with the data scientists. We have to create impact in the peacetime. We cannot rely upon a pandemic to force us into delivering solutions which will be AI solutions, right? India is a fantastic example. We were way ahead in digital and technology, and we delivered the vaccine frameworks and the vaccination platforms. COVID was a fantastic example, but not AI, right? We still have a long way to go with AI. So I think this is a time which we have to co-develop all these programs along with our partners, and that's one of the key things which we kept in mind while we were designing the program. So our program had a lot of case studies which covered some of these aspects. Our faculty colleagues, members, including myself, basically are rooted very strongly in not just teaching, but also teaching what we do in our research and what we deploy in our research. So I think that was one of the key things we did keep at the center of our design of the program as well. But how do we bring these sort of lived experiences in building this out for a hospital or for a farmer, and then bring it to the conversation in the class? And then perhaps not just have a conversation, but also empower with tools that are then the real world deployments with these. So that was very much central to it. And of course, then it comes to having all the regulations, etc., which are not easy to work with, because if you're looking at such a program, you're looking at a degree or a diploma, which is catering to a wide audience. It is catering to social sciences, healthcare, technical. How do you really design the program that will equally cater to all of these, yet satisfy the credits requirement that a university has to fulfill? So, but I think that took us some time, but we were able to. I'm thankful for the opportunity by data.org. I think it has given us a platform to really demonstrate that it can be done. We have now trained more than 250 learners. Actually, the third cohort is again, so about 300 learners currently being trained, 250 graduated. So essentially, which gives us a lot of confidence that this needs to be done, this can be done. We can be rigorous with our training, grounded in math and the stats and the machine learning and AI, yet have all the connect with the ground to make it possible. I'll not take more time. Thank you.
Thank you. I love your point about collaboration, and it shouldn't take a crisis for us to figure out how to collaborate on this stuff. So moving on to Neha, Janagra became a Capacity Accelerator Network host organization, taking on a CAN Data Fellow. The fellows obviously gained rich experience in applying their new skills to real work challenges, but what's the organizational impact of bringing in a CAN Fellow? How did you feel that within Janagra? And I know I've heard from TT you're a significant mentor to a lot of these young folks, so how did that affect your role there? Thank you.
Thanks, Perry, and thank you so much for having me on this panel. So today I'd like to highlight 3 things that really stood out for me from this wonderful partnership with CAN Fellowship. The first thing I would like to say is that for us, it was a lot more than just adding capacity to the team or to the organization. It was really bringing together complementary skills. At Janagra, we have deep domain expertise around urban governance, citizen participation, And when this comes together with the fellows' data and AI skills, it really leads to exponential impact on ground. So I think the complementarity of bringing in a CAN fellow into an organization like Janagraha is really supremely valuable. Just as an example, so Pravesh is sitting right here, and she played a fundamental role in designing the data backbone of the city data and analytics platform that Janagraha is building as a microsite to Niti Aayog's national data and analytics platform. And really the depth of her technical work played a key role in mining the data sets, understanding them, and giving CDAP the shape that it holds today, and also defining some of the dreams that we have on CDAP. The second thing that I'd like to say is I think that the CAN fellows come with beautiful intersectional expertise of data, AI, and tech, and that leads to really powerful bridges that they have built within the organization between the program teams, like where I work in the research and MEL team, and let's say the tech team in the organization, or even if you go out and hire a tech organization to just simply build the platform. Because oftentimes I feel like people on the program side and the tech side don't speak the same language. So I feel like the CAN fellows play that powerful role of communication and translating each other's visions, dreams, knowledge. So that's the second thing I'd like to say. And the last thing is that I also feel like there is a really big ripple effect in the organization. So after Pravesh and Nikhila worked with us and they demonstrated the power of unlocking data sets, AI, I see a lot of movement within our team and also across the organization where data, AI, they're all coming to the surface and everyone's talking about it and everyone's reaching out to them and then also starting to learn and look out for, events, conversations. So I see a really big ripple effect in that sense.
That's great. I love the idea of CAN fellows as bridge builders. Can you talk a little bit more about your mentorship role in those situations?
So again, I think it's two-way. Mentorship in the sense of, it's two-way, right? So they bring such brilliance and dedication to the team that it's very easy to mentor them. I think it's really valuable to build a really strong, cohesive team. And I think that's been the foundation of our mentorship, that we're all in this together, and together we bring out the best for all of us.
I feel like there's some reverse mentoring that goes on sometimes with these CAN fellows as well. So TT, JPAL sits at the intersection of research and action. Through the Capacity Accelerator Network, JPAL placed trainees into social impact organizations as fellows. How do you make sure that those fellows you place aren't just learning skills, but translating them into critical data and evidence that can potentially help make policy decisions?
Thanks so much for that question, Perry, and thank you to the friends at data.org for inviting me here. I was just reflecting with a lot of the panelists here that it's been 3 years now that we've been building this, and it's been a labor of love, but more importantly, it's been just the collaboration, right? So to that particular question, just to take a step back and help the audience understand what JPAL does. So for over the past 2 decades, we have been working on trying to see how scientific evidence can inform policy making, decision making. At times, these are very critical decisions that will be affecting the lives of millions of people. And throughout our journey, we've realized that insights, data, evidence is something that needs to be built. But to do that, what we need in a country like India, which has complex demographic, complex problems, complex, I would say, challenges, infrastructure, so on and so forth, is the right kind of capacity to be built and then that capacity going on and creating a multiplier effect for building organizational capability and governance capabilities. So I really liked the point that Yui made, and he always makes very lovely points, but it's about identifying the key leverage areas. For us, throughout this journey with CAN, it has been exactly that. We've had fantastic partners on one side with the universities where they have a unique leverage point of identifying the right kind of talent, supporting the right kind of talent, and also sort of collaborating and building with us in terms of that bridge from data technology to social impact. What does that look like? We have this unique, I would say, leverage point wherein we are well connected with the demand ecosystem. We have N number of partners in India, but because we have a number of partners in India, it also becomes a little bit of an identification problem, right? In the sense, who needs data capacity most? Who needs unlocking data sets most? Who needs what? So you need to understand the enabling conditions that would actually unleash the right kind of potential when you place the right kind of person in that particular organization. So for us, it's been a mix of all of those parameters going in. I'm going to take I'm not going to, just not to sound partial, I'm not going to use the Janagraha case, but the Janagraha partnership for us has been such a beautiful learning experience. It helped us define not just what we are looking for in terms of organizations to partner with, to place these highly talented young professionals with hopes and dreams of changing the world in, but also the importance of mentorship, the importance of the organization enabling, owning, having accountability towards the experience that the fellows will have. And when we have that right kind of mix, we see, wonderful work that Janagraha is doing, but I'm going to give an example of the policy side of things where currently we have a fellow of ours who's working with the Jal Jeevan mission on trying to understand how water infrastructure, changes in policies related to water infrastructure can have impact on disease burden. Now, as you can imagine, it is a very complex problem statement. It's not going to come out of one data set, one dashboard, or one insight, but it's going to require an ecosystem of experts coming together to be able to help the fellow unpack that, to be able to create some meaningful insight for the decision makers and policy makers. So our fingers are crossed that something exciting is going to come out of that, but that's been one of the very exciting things that we've been working on.
Thanks for sharing that. You mentioned the multiplier effect, and Tav, you mentioned 300 in the most recent cohort. How do you, the two of you, it would be really interesting to hear, how do you both think about that? How do you think about, if those 300 people, are they going back into 100, 200-person social impact organizations? And what do you see as the ripple effect of the important work you're doing?
I think the way we look at it is not all will go back into social impact, but JPAL has been a fantastic, and Art Park have been fantastic collaborators, partners in this endeavor. Basically, I think we are looking for that the tipping point where we actually start seeing social impact through the fellows we train. Most of the cohort members that we've had are already working professionals with jobs that they already have. They are coming to get more exposure to AI and looking for impact in healthcare or social sector, or perhaps climate and agriculture. But many of them actually go back to their own jobs. I think the ripple effect is when they go back to their own jobs, then what do they do there is a little bit harder challenge to solve for and to track. But I think that's something which is the multiplier that would come with time. Yeah.
Thank you. Titi?
And for us, it's on the opposite end. How I think about multiplier effect, firstly, I think going back to Tav's point about incentivizing, this is one thing that we always knew was going to be a challenge. We were going to invite young professionals in, support their career switch, but also to see whether that career switch is going to be sustainable, right? But in the short run, not to confuse that with myopia, is to make sure that the data capabilities of certain organizations are being built, but when they go back to their own organizations, are they making slightly different choices? But for JPAL, it's slightly on the other side, wherein for us, the fellows are sort of an instrument to creating that multiplier effect. For example, if we have a Pravesh, who's a data fellow, who's going to be working with Janagraha, she's one individual working with one organization which has a strong network, and helping that organization create a multiplier effect, whether it's solutions in climate and health, whether it's unlocking data, an influence that can affect millions of lives. So for me, that is the multiplier effect journey.
Thanks so much. It's helpful. So Bio, over to you. I love Dewey's anecdote of the lion and the hunter and how do we tell the stories of lions. And one of the ways we tell those stories is understanding the lion's language. So as we heard in Dewey's keynote, you've been a long-time champion for locally grounded data and AI training. Recently, Data.org, Data Science Nigeria, University of Lagos, and University of Pretoria came together to develop an Africa Low-Resource Languages playbook. How did that playbook collaboration underscore why localism, another favorite word, in capacity building is critical, and what's lost when we ignore it? So help us understand, how are you getting to the lion's language here?
Thank you very much. I think first I'll be talking on behalf of the three organizations supported by Data.org to put together the body of work on how to collect data from low-income communities, empower people to collect their data so that AI can learn their language and AI can work for them. Now, the fundamental purpose is that if language is the fundamental expression of the culture of a people, if it is not digitized in the emerging digital era, it means that a whole essence of a people can be lost. Then it becomes a sense, an existential reality to ensure that every language that defines every culture is properly digitized so that AI can learn and it can work for everyone and no one is left behind. That's the fundamental purpose of that initiative. And what are the principles underscoring that? If AI speaks like us, we will trust it. And if we trust AI, we will use it more. So if AI is not grounded in the reality, in the nuance, in the context of the people, people will not use it. And I'm not just talking about generic, conversation. I'm talking about context. I'm talking about ethical boundaries. I'm talking about cultural groundedness. AI must be able to recognize those boundaries. And the only way that can happen is to empower the owners of the language to be part of how those data are collected. Now, a lot has happened in the last 1, 2, 3 years. We've seen a lot of startups that emerge, that join the entrepreneurial side of scrape data online and build AI model. But we've seen that those models are not representative, they are biased, they do not reflect the realities of the people because most of global South languages are spoken, they are not digitized. So there must be an effort to digitize them. So the next question is, how do we digitize those languages? Of course, there are many ways to do it. But the biggest way to do it is to empower the people with the right knowledge, framework, and best practice to be able to do it themselves at their own pace and for their own good. So that when they co-own the process, then they can co-own the outcome as well. And that is what Data.org has done. So it's beyond inclusion by data collection, it's inclusion in how the data is collected by ensuring that that knowledge is democratized, is accessible, and available to everyone. So essentially, the playbook catalogs the methodology, the best practice of how data can be collected. It learns from what has worked and what has not worked. It puts together all the fundamental principles from various ecosystem players to help anyone, any group of people that would like to digitize their language in a very inclusive and representative manner so that they can go through the process and use the book. And that's why it's called a playbook, and it serves as a platform for anyone that wants to go on that journey. And the way it is structured is the fact that it goes beyond generic data collection. It recognizes that in Global South, there are things like code mixing, there are things like code switching, There are things like accent. There are a lot of things like dialectal variations. There are a lot of things that are semantical expressions that are not currently digitized. So it provides those universe of possibilities. So it's like your one-stop reference point that catalogs everything you need to do, from building ontology, for example, to linguistic standardizations, to annotation mechanisms, labeling approach, modeling best practices. And that's why the work was not just done by an academic environment, it was an inclusive one. Why? Language is not something that is owned by a select set of people. Language is universal. So the process of collecting language must also have a sense of universality, where people, irrespective of their knowledge level, their age, their gender, are involved. And that was what we learned, that there must be a bottom-up approach of people on the street, because they also have their own language as well. So we must be able to take those language. And of course, those who are in the academia who understand linguistic standardization, lexical framework are also included. So it is that bottom-up and top-down approach that informed the work that was done to put together the body of work to help anyone to collect data. But what is more important is turning it into a platform, to platformize it. And what does that mean? It becomes a reference point where you go, you learn, and after you have done your own work, you can come back there and share your own experience as well. Maybe while you are collecting your own data, you learn some new ways of doing it. You saw some things that never worked. Then you can bring those learning back to that framework. So it becomes a living case study or a living reference point. And the last layer of the work is the fact that it's intended to build shared pipeline of talent, pipeline of expertise, and pipeline of experiences, so that as much as possible, we can begin to have people taking the responsibility in their community to begin to collect data. And one of our fellows, a young man called Gideon, actually proved that it's very possible for one single individual to take on the responsibility of mobilizing a community to collect his own data. This gentleman from northern Nigeria started the project of saying, I want to digitize the language of my community. And he went through a process similar to what is defined in the playbook. He worked with the community champions, the community elites, the community experts, and everyday people. And they started putting together the catalog of their language. And over a period of 6 months, this gentleman was able to have the language of his people digitized, properly annotated, so that AI can learn. And this, for me, becomes a big responsibility that we have in Global South. Nobody's going to do this for us. We're not going to wait for Silicon Valley to digitize a language that to them does not have commercial value. But for us, it's not about commerce. It's about our identity. It's about our existence. So the onus is therefore on us to use the playbook as a reference point to initiate the process of galvanizing our community, to collect our data so that AI can learn us, understand us, and most importantly, serve us in every way possible. Thank you.
That was terrific. Thank you so much. One follow-on question for that. First of all, it's great to hear about champions and communities as key, because I would argue that Silicon Valley could not, even with all the money in the world, do as good a job as someone who's rooted in the community. But my question is, you brought together 3 institutions, 2 countries to put together this playbook. What surprised you, or what did you learn? I know DSN is an expert in this field, so not a lot would surprise you. But was there anything someone else brought to the table you thought, oh, wow, we really want to learn from that?
I think what I learned, I've actually mentioned it, is the fact that language collection or language is universal. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with your educational level. The person we call illiterate, for as much as the person can speak, the person might be a better custodian of the language than a PhD in linguistics in that language. Right. And that is one fact that we learn. So therefore, the process must be inclusive intentionally. And that was what we learned as Data Science Nigeria, when, in certain terminology, certain methodology, by the time you went to the street and we validated it with the language owners, we realized that some of the things that the academia said are not real to the language owners. Those things have evolved over time. Things that are called idiolectics. Idiolects, which are like idioms or slangs, neologism. They evolve with time. But academic learned those things maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And you know the way research works. When data is not representative, incremental research builds on the insufficient data. Yeah. But you have to go to the street. So when we went to the street, when we spoke to the real people, we got the real answer. And that is why the whole idea of language data collection, as represented by the playbook done by data.org, has a simple principle. It must be bottom up and it must be top down. Everyone must be included. Even did. We want data to be collected for impact and to serve people that is meant for.
Terrific. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So one of the things looking across this panel, we have academic institutions, social impact organizations, people who sit at the intersection of research and policy, and we have folks representing the private sector. So kicking off, we heard a little bit about MasterCard's theory of why investing in social impact mattered. Can we hear a little bit more about Cognizant?
Thanks, Perry. Okay, I'm on the dark side of things. Hi, I'm Pratibha. I lead social impact for Cognizant across APJ. And when it comes to AI skilling and purpose, we also start with research. So one of our very popular research out there is called New Work, New World. And we had one version a couple of years back, and we just released the latest version. And what New Work, New World basically says is that AI, of course, I mean, everyone knows this, AI is fundamentally shaping work as we know it. It's reimagining workflows. So AI is pretty much here to stay. Jobs are being redefined, right? So what does that mean? Which means that we need to take responsibility for AI skills. There is AI skills, and there is also human-centric skills. Human skills like judgment and reasoning, ethical reasoning, also critical thinking, collaboration, all of that. And the third part is for us to really, again, from an impact standpoint, for us to really bring scale to this, it means that we need to take responsibility for our ecosystems. Now, grounded in this, rooted in this, is our global initiative called Synapse. And we also share the 1 million number. So we started in 2023. Our goal was to upskill 1 million folks in our ecosystem to ensure that they're able to thrive in the economy. And I'm so happy to say we actually, we met our goal a year ahead of time, and then we doubled the goal for ourselves, so now we're chasing 2 million. But again, like somebody here said, it's really not about the numbers, it's really about the intent and really about understanding what matters. Now, how do we activate Synapse? So activation of Synapse, again, grounded in research. There are different levers, but for the purpose of this audience and the work that I do in social impact, we have two levers. So one is philanthropic grants. Again, just like MasterCard, we fund purpose-led organizations that are able to support our communities to really thrive in the AI economy with skills, with opportunities, internships, hackathons, the whole hog of things. Now, the second lever that we activate is through volunteerism. So I know you might be a little skeptical, can really volunteers drive impact? But that's something that we're actually seeing. And I'll tell you some interesting things about it. So we train our own employees, and they run AI workshops. So these are not like the fully funded grants, but basically think of it as 3 to 4 hour workshops where the focus is on AI fluency, but also importantly getting hands-on and working on use cases that can bring people together and really unlock human skills, right? And what we observed is innovation thrives. People come alive when you throw a challenge at them that improves lives for people. I like someone said, not improves lives, scratch that, saves lives. When you're bringing in problems which really impacts people and saves lives, the energy in the room just changes. I think that is really fundamental to why purpose is so important. Now I said these are two levers. What we accidentally unlocked was a third lever. And that third lever is our own people, our employees. Of course, we have formal skilling programs for them. But when they were trained to run these programs for our communities and they were mentoring, mentoring the groups, their own skills, I mean the skills uplift for our employees, that showed a dramatic spike. Their leadership skills, their ability to collaborate, and very, very interestingly, their ability to design a solution for our clients. So, using the same reflexes back at work, That, I think, again, accidentally unlocked something really amazing. So I think the bottom line for us here is that when we intentionally embed purpose into everything that we do, especially especially when it comes to AI skilling, what we are seeing is we are able to create positive outcomes, of course, for our communities, also for our clients. This is private sector, also for our clients, and very importantly for our own people. When I say people, our employees. Yeah.
I love that point about improved employee engagement, but also improved employee skills, right?
Absolutely.
They're taking these skills and applying them to real world problems, and there's something to be gained for the private sector there as well. So finally, I'm going to introduce a quick lightning round of what gives you hope. If we can go down, it's been a few tumultuous years in various places around the globe, and one of the things we really look for is building this workforce of purpose-driven data practitioners. We see the opportunity to create a better world. So I'd love to hear, just starting with Tav, like in what sentence or, roughly a sentence, what gives you hope?
Just came out of PMAC earlier this month, and it was all about the global shifts that were happening, so pessimistic. But when I look at India AI Summit, I think the youth energy that you see around AI and the numbers, just sheer numbers and the excitement around it, that is one of the indicators that there's energy, people want to build, do things, and it's going to happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I feel like AI, big data, tech is like the new equipment in the market, and I feel like there is a lot of hope to use it really well to change lives of people on the ground, especially like the urban poor, especially people who live in cities, engines of growth for our country today.
So I've been thinking about this. I think, to sum it up in one word, it would be the convergence. We see people from technology, academia, private sector, public sector, social impact, all coming together to solve for the future. And I think conversations and collaborations we don't have to wait for COVID or pandemics to come in. We already know that collaboration is going to be key. So I think that convergence on that particular point has been very hopeful. Thanks.
For me, I'll summarize it as inclusion, and I'll use a popular saying from my own part of the world that says that if you want to you cannot barb a man's head in his absence. He must be there and present. Same, you cannot give a woman the most gorgeous hairstyle by sending it via the best logistics. She must be there and be the center of attraction. So if you want to build for people, then they must be the center, and everyone must be included if you really want to build for people.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to speak for the private sector. I think we are going to steal purpose from the social sector with AI. That's because, with AI automating a lot of work as we know it, of course, human skills are going to come into play. But what's going to be a real differentiator for private sector organizations is having a workforce that's purpose-led, because then you're innovating. Something that AI can't do. You're really problem-solving for real challenges, real impact. And that's why we're going to steal it from you guys.
Well, what gives me a tremendous amount of hope is a panel like this, where you're bringing together so many different skill sets and perspectives and learning some real practical ways how we can all contribute to the world with data and AI for social impact. When Priyank kicked us off today, he reminded us that today is about more than just data or AI. It's about possibility. And at data.org, we're very focused on what may be possible with our 1 million purpose-driven data practitioners. What's possible, in my view, gets more astonishing every single day, especially when you center your work around people. But the huge advances in technology, but more importantly, the innovative ways people are applying them, I find just to be both hopeful and inspiring and real potential. Thank you all for joining us here this afternoon. We're closing this event, but let's please consider this the beginning of a dialogue. Come say hello, connect with some of our remarkable partners here, and of course, stay in touch with us and download that languages playbook at data.org. Thanks so much.